Mario once again, and I have been working a little bit more on this half scale Quicksilver style RC Ultralight. You can see I already have the bracing on the frame. I did an earlier really quick video because my camera was fully loaded and I had to dump a lot of the videos so that I can make space for new videos here. So this is going to be a little more complete video on with a little more discussion on this airframe here. The airframe, for anybody that's not familiar with the MIA Quicksilver style RC Ultralight, is very much the same way as you see it here, but of course in smaller scale. The wheels are a little more customized because these are my own wheels, the way that I'm making them lately with a tool that I created to cut the tires, the foam tires. So basically the whole aircraft is pretty much the same. Building this particular size, one of the key things that one needs to be careful with is obtaining a level airframe. What you see here, and this is more for my customers that have bought the quarter scale and the customer, there's a few customers that are interested in the 16-foot wing. As I said in my other video, I'm not making the full kit. I'm just did this one for reference, just to have it for size and reference, so that I can provide that information to customers that want to build a 16-footer. So it's going to be more for those customers, than anything here. One of the things that you have to be careful is to make sure that that is aligned, perfectly aligned. As much as horizontal, let me put it this way, as you can, because nothing's really perfect, and sometimes a little human error here and there tends to deviate from something that would be otherwise perfect. So as level as you can get that section right there, it's preferable to have that a little more inclined towards the back like that than have it drooping like that, because if it droops like that, the horizontal stabilizer that is that part right there that fits on top of that horizontally, of course, horizontal stabilizer, and the elevator is going to have an angle of attack, which you don't want, because that's going to have a tendency to want to dip the nose. It's going to create a negative elevator or a down elevator effect without having the down elevator. You can compensate with an up elevator for any differences in the angles here, but it's preferable to have this section right here, this triangulation right there, with all this bracing right here, so that's a little bit higher than or horizontal, preferably horizontal, than drooping down. In my other videos, I had this a little bit drooping down because the rods that I'm using right here and just the distances, everything is sized from the original MIA Quicksilver style 5th scale RC Ultralight, which is a 60 wing span RC Ultralight. So all the rods, everything's pretty much sized up, to half scale. But it just so happens that when I received these rods, they were not long enough by about 4 inches or 3 inches. These were a little bit shorter in length. So what I ended up doing is I ended up making that connection as you see it here. So, just to compensate for the lack of additional 4 inches. Otherwise, the way I had it before, I had these connected over here where they typically are on my smaller ones. But because of these rods, they're not a little bit longer by that much. I just had to connect them here, and they'll work just fine here, provided everything is secured, with some good 1024 screws and nylock nuts. These are the ones that hold tight really well. And so that's my section right there with all the rods. And as you can see now, this thing is as horizontal as I can get it, with a slight angle towards the back, which is preferable. Like I said, I can always adjust that angle make it, if if it's a little too much, I can lower it by adjusting the distance where this connection is connected to, because that's what establishes the the um, the whole triangular boom section, either up or down. So I wanted to emphasize that in this video for my customers that have the quarter scale, and also a few customers that are interested in the 16-foot wing. There's a couple customers that bought this, and this is all by word of mouth. They see what I'm doing here, and they ask me. I get often asked via email, "Hey, Mario, are you building this for yourself, or can you offer that as a kit? And how are you offering this?" And so I respond to them, and based on that, customers either buy or they, I work with those customers. So it's so this is that type of video, more aimed for my customers. There's one particular customer that already has the tubes, I believe, and he's going to start building that. So so for him, this information should be good, as I would like to have it. If I was building something, from somebody else that I liked, and I would want to build it as the original one is done, or as close as possible to the original equipment manufacturer, or original equipment manufacturer, OEM. That's what that stands for. So that's one of the things that I wanted to point out in this video. The other is that this wheel right here, you can see the difference between that wheel and that wheel. That one is only 2 panels, 1-inch panels side by side. This is 3 panels. I added another panel, but because of that extra width, I would need to, if I want to do this right, I would need to redo the 3D printed hub, to have a little more depth, so that at the center, it's not, when they butt up against each other, the two halves. Right now, the two halves on that one, they're butted up against each other with bolts, 6 bolts that hold that hub together. And so because they butt up against each other, they compress against the foam a little bit, 2 inches. It's a little bit under 2 inches, the width of the hubs, so that it compresses on the foam tire. This one doesn't have that because it's, I use the same hubs. So if I wanted to make this a 3-inch wheel, I would have to add another 1/2 inch or 0.45, something like that, to the height of these hubs, so that they butt up against each other and they compress, and it holds all 3 pieces nice and snug. Otherwise, that center piece is a little bit floating in between those 2 pieces that are separated. So I did that just to get an idea what this would look like, with fatter tires, and I think it looks much better with those wider tires. So I think I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. Reprint those hubs. I can always use those hubs in something else. They're just the 2 halves with 2 inches wide tires. So I think I'm going to go with the 3-inch tire, and you can see how this is looking. That part right there, the axle, which is just a tube, and this is just a tube I had. It's a PVC tube. I'm going to replace that tube, and I'm going to put I do have some a really good polyethylene tube, and I'm just going to run the threaded rod right through it the way I have it here. I'm not going to go with a smooth rod because this already has the threads, and I think it'll work just fine. So I'm going to use a different tube than that one, because that one was a little bit it was a little bit deformed, because these are tubes that I had for many years, in a shed. Because of the heat, it sort of became a little bit curved. And so what I had to do is cut that section, and I had to use a heat gun, to flatten it a little bit. But it doesn't. It's bothering me. So I'm going to use a nice tube, blue. These rods are actually blue, and so I'm going to be using the blue tube, polyethylene tube on there, which will allow the axle to spin either on the tube, or the wheels can spin on the axle as well. So it's going to be super smooth. that way. I did go through all the connections here with the hardware that I received, and you can see I've been organizing my hardware in these bins. I have many of these bins that I acquired over the years of doing micro helicopter stuff and some other products. And this is pretty much the way I organize all my hardware in these bins. I have not only these bins that are easy to transport from one place to the other, but I also have bins in my work tables, that have the same hardware where I can just access them as I'm building the kits. But this is more for assembly, that I can just pull it out of my I have these racks with a lot of these bins that I can just grab from and pull them out from. So that's the way I keep my hardware. I have to redo all this because this was I repurposed this from another product that I had. So all the hardware that I got for this, I've been putting it right here. This is all 1024 hardware with nylock nuts mainly. This should have some washers here, and I also have some of these other star lug nuts, which I also use consistently throughout all my products, along with some of those P-clips that have become a trademark of my microflight, the way I connect things, the way I do things. So everything is pretty much the same as my smaller ones, except bigger. The pilot has a footrest now. I added this footrest for the pilot, and this will probably get I did make some pedals for these footrests, but I just don't print those pedals because I find that it's a lot easier just to put rest the pilot's foot on the. He's going to sink here. He's going to look like he's drunk because I don't have a belt just yet, but I can easily put the foot right on top of that, and that's you can just put a couple straps or just a clip underneath, and that's the way I do my other Quicksilver style RC Ultralights, with the smaller ones. This is having a tendency to want to go back because the weight, obviously there's quite a bit of weight in the front, and this doesn't just yet have the battery in front, and the motor that I typically put my motors at the front here. So this is going to have a motor about that size. It's going to be quite a hefty motor. The propeller can be in the front or at the rear. It's something that I'm not just yet sure whether I'm going to have the propeller at the back or at the front. And I said propeller, and just bear that in mind. Because most of the weight, has to be at the front, to counterbalance the aircraft. So with that box acting as sort of a weight or a simulation for the battery, my CG ends up being right here at this bar right here. And I purposely did when I did this bar right here. I purposely resized this or relocated these holes, from the smaller ones a little bit different. Not much, but just a little bit, so that I can hold it from here and balance the whole aircraft. As you can see, I'm lifting here, and it's got a little bit of weight in the back, but that's because it doesn't have. It has a little bit of weight in the front. In this case, balancing, so it's tilting this way because it just doesn't have the elevator and the horizontal stabilizer installed. Once that's installed, it'll balance it with a battery about the weight of that box that I have there. So that's probably going to be the size of the battery that's going to power this here, plus the motor. I like putting my motors at the front. In the past, I have done motors with rods, with a propeller at the back, with the bearings, ball bearings, so that I can put a shaft. But if you don't reinforce that really well, it tends to vibrate. The rod can vibrate, and then you create more issues, with the vibration of the propeller at the back than just having the motor direct drive, at the front. So I like my motors direct drive at the front, and I don't mind if the propeller's in front of the pilot. It's one way to counterbalance the aircraft, for this particular style, and you just have to put a lot of weight in the front. Otherwise, if you put the motor at the back with the propeller at the back, it just keeps adding more weight, beyond the center of balance. So yeah, those are those are some of the things that I've been doing, on this aircraft here. But I'm pretty much locked on this right here. Also, you can see how the stabilizer is not totally vertical. It's not really vertical. There's a little bit of an angle opening right there between that point right there of the vertical stabilizer and this plane here, which would be the triangulated boom section right there, where the horizontal stabilizer needs to be inserted. And so I've also done. You can see how these bolts are facing upwards, and that's how I do my wings. All my wings are done this way to establish a three-point contact for the wing to be installed. So once the wings are assembled, you pop the whole wing, which is a 16-foot wing in this case. You would have to do this at the field because otherwise it would be so difficult. I'm gonna do one panel here in the next in the coming week because I already have the tubing for that selected, and hopefully that'll work the way I want it to work. But the wings, the way I make my wings is that there's another bolt that's supposed to be right there with a little bit of a spacer, just to create a little bit of an angle of attack there on the wing. So I connect the wing at that point with the MIA thumb nuts. Those thumb nuts, almost like not a quick release type thing, but it's a nut that threads onto the threaded bolt. So it provides a positive point of a 3-point attachment for the wing, besides having the rods that come out from the seat. There's 2 rods that hold the wings. One of my customers actually added two more rods for his quarter scale, just to support the wing, make it a little more rigid. And then seems to be working better for his model. My model's a little bit different, so that depends on how the model's built, what type of tubing is being used, for the leading and trailing edges. Sometimes it needs it, sometimes it doesn't. So that's just a matter of preference and just how you want the model to handle. What else did I wanted to cover here? The servos, I've been looking at servos for this particular size, and there's a torque calculator that you can go online and just plug in some values there. These ultralights, they don't, you're not going to be flying an ultralight like a jet, for example. Jets, they fly, anywhere 100 miles and up. An ultralight like this is under 100 miles per hour, or around, I think, 70. I think I sized the servos for this one at 70 kilometers per hour, which translates to about 46 or somewhere around 46 miles per hour, somewhere around there. So so the torque on the servos is you're not going to require a lot of torque because you're not the surfaces are not under a lot of tension from the air cutting through the control surfaces, because this is not a jet and it's not an aerobatic airplane. Although this can probably do aerobatics, like I've shown with some of my smaller ones. It just depends how if you want to take that risk, with a model like this. But once you get the hang of it and you know what the model is capable of, then you can go for those things. But I just like flying scale with these things. I don't like to do crazy things, and just enjoy the model. This is the real thing flies. Very rare you see people doing aerobatics, with these ultralights, and it's kind of risky because if too much pressure is applied in some areas that, it's going to weaken that surface. The risk of something breaking in that process is there. So I would not want to do that unless I knew for sure that the frame that I built, for a model like that is well reinforced, and I know for sure that I've gone through all the tests, stressed and dynamics, considering the speeds and the G forces that take place in all the surfaces that control the model, not only in the surfaces but also in the airframe. It's got to be able to withstand some of those things, and so unless I unless you're not totally sure on that, it's better not to stress it, and not to take those risks. So I just plan on flying this particular one, just scale, get it up there, do some turns, figure eights, um, low passes, some landings, the stuff that really shows the model in a more realistic way. So at least that's my target. I don't know. I have the field that I fly my other models is, all of a sudden when I realized how big this thing is, it just became very, very small, because that field is now populated by buildings around, and so it's going to be, if I decide to fly this in that field, it's going to be a little more challenging because of the because I think you really need an open area, a big open area to do this. So I may need to go somewhere in the desert, where it's not populated. It's just a lot of open land, and for the test flight of this particular one. Once I get there, hopefully I'll be able to get there this year before the end of the year, or maybe at the beginning of the year. Hopefully things will be cool, in this country, and I can go and do those things with a peace of mind. Um, yeah, all these dimensions, all these rods, all this hardware, I will provide that to my customers. Um, just email me now that I have all this figured out. I do plan on doing taking one of my original sketches, the illustrations for the fifth scale that I sell mostly because of its compact size. Um, I will take some of those drawings and just throwing these dimensions. It's just a matter of scaling it up, basically, throwing those dimensions, and I will be supplying this particular customer that is building similar size. And there's a couple other people that are interested in this size. I don't know if they'll be buying that. I'm not in a hurry to do that, because my work right now is pretty heavy. I got some orders for the smaller ones. I got some orders for the RC Ultralights that have come in, and I'm working on this one that I have to finish for this particular customer, the 16 wing. Um, but I wanted to get this done before sending him, the all the panels that encompass all the surfaces, the mainsail, the ailerons, the vertical, horizontal, vertical rudder, vertical stabilizer rudder combination, the horizontal stabilizer, the elevator. So all those things, will be. Once I get this wing, which I plan on doing this coming week, I already have the tubing for this, and hopefully that tubing will work out great. It's not aluminum tubing like this stuff right here, because that gets really expensive, unless you really want to spend the time and the money for that. I don't, because I know that if any mishap and you land a little bit hard on the wings, typically the first thing that goes is those tubes, and I don't have to tell you that. Just go watch some of these aircrafts that sometimes the way they crash is the wing is the first thing that cracks. At least on my ultralights, it's I protect the wings, and the way I do them, I don't use aluminum tubing for my leading and trailing edge rods. In fact, I don't even use tubing on these parts right here, for the elevator, for the rudder, for those reasons, because I want something to give and come back. I don't want something to bend and crack. You try to bend it back, and even at the field, it'll crack. That's the nature of aluminum. Some aluminum is a little more. It's a little bit softer that you can do that, but the aluminum that I've used at 6061, you won't be able to do that. If it bends, you try to bend it back, it'll crack. 6063 will probably do that because it's a little bit softer aluminum, but with moderation, you can't if you try to bend something that's been bent really to an extreme, you just can't do it. So for that reason, I don't use leading and trailing edge tubing. The tubing that I got, I'm not going to disclose where I got it from or what it is. I'm just going to build it, and if it works out, I will disclose that to my customers. Where they can get that if they want to go that route, or they can just source their own tubing elsewhere. Tubing that I use consistently throughout all these aircrafts is the same, scaled up. So the tubing for the leading edge rods, I don't like to use really heavy tubing. That's the other thing, just to keep everything everything kind of consistent. You really, unless you're building the full scale one, you really don't need to have that. You can cut, not cut corners, but you can cut some of those dimensions a little bit smaller, just to save on costs, and just to keep things a little more simpler than what's employed on the full scale one. Full scale one, they use tubes, and then they use inner tubes inside inner tubes, telescopic tubing to do a lot of these connections here. I don't do that. I just use straight tubes, and then all this bracing here is done with composite rods. These are composite rods that I'm using here. And if you like, the colors of these come in various colors. You can get them on on Amazon. You can get them in other places. And the only thing with these is that you can't buy just a couple of them. You got to buy. When they sell you these, they sell you in a pack. It's better to buy a pack. So I just dropped about $40-50 in these rods right here, but I got a bunch of them. So so if I want to build something else, with those rods, which they come in handy, composite rods, they're great for stuff like this. The only thing with composite rods, when you're working and you're cutting these things, is that it gets really nasty. You have to before you make a cut in these type of rods, you have to cover the area that you're going to cut with tape, so that the tape retains that dust. That dust that from any composite type rod, whether it's fiberglass or carbon, it loosens up, and it generates this nasty powder that you'll be itching on for a while because that thing gets into your skin, and so it's a little nasty to work with. But if you're careful, and if you take care of those things, and you protect not only yourself, but protect the areas that you're working with. You do it outside, where it's not going to be an issue. Then you're okay with that. These rods can also be coated with a clear coat, or they can be coated with a sleeve, as they are right there. Those white sleeves, they're coated with sleeves. So you can you can coat the whole thing, just spray it with a clear coat, and then that'll give it a little more extra protection. So you're not any residue from the cutting of these rods is not lingering on the rods. You can also wipe them clean, but it's better to just I coat these with a clear coat, or I just I was going to use a heat shrink tubing right on top of that, to create a protective sleeve. But I decided, just for this assembly, just leave it like it is, because I really like the blue, the way it came out, and it really matches those blue touches there on the pilot, on the aircraft, and on the wing. The wing also has a some blue elements there, so it's going to look really cool. Once this is all fully assembled, as it is already, it's looking pretty spiffy. So yeah, I thought I'd do that. I'm getting a little lazy here. I better get up and start working some other stuff here. But I wanted to capture this on video with a little more detail and show and tell, as I typically do with my videos. I don't like to do just a video that doesn't, just a video that shows the things. I like to talk and and ramble a little bit, because for me, I rather have a video where people talk about the thing, and they explain, how they got to that stage, what is required, and the reasons why. That's me. I like that, and that's the reason why I also like to provide that information, to to people. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people may think that, oh, that I talk too much. That's okay. I do talk too much, but I rather give that information out. The information that I think is necessary for somebody that's interested in doing this stuff right here. So anyway, basically, this is what you're going to you're going to need. You're going to need hardware. You're going to need rods. You're going to need tubing. If you want to build a pilot like that, you're going to need to you're going to need to either do it yourself or enlarge a pilot. You can put a pilot. I don't care if you buy my pilot or not. The wheels can also be done if you are somewhat savvy with a CAD program, and you can do a 3D model. And if you have a 3D printer, you can 3D print that at your own leisure. So a lot of the stuff, look how long it's taking me to do this. If you go back to all my videos since the beginning, since I started showing the mainframe and then the pilot, I've been working on this nonstop on a daily basis almost from that time. Not the whole day, obviously, because I have other things to do. I have other orders that I need to fill. And so I've been kind of spreading that time, little here, a little there, just to provide a sort of a continuance, to this on a daily basis. It's sort of a diary of this build. And so that way it serves the particular customer that's building something similar as a point of reference also. Anyway, this is where I'm at. Hopefully next video I'll have the elevator already assembled with horizontal stabilizer and mounted on the wing. But just wanted to capture this, which is really, really important, that frame looks like this. If that frame, these angles are also important here, because a slight deviation of that is going to throw off the horizontal alignment. And I've mentioned that to many of my customers there, that sometimes when they build this, it's like, they call me, they tell me, hey Mario, how do you get it to align like that? It's you almost have to loosen up all the bolts and just get, the main thing is getting this straight right here. Once you get this straight, which requires that these areas right here be nice and snug right here. That area right there, and then this framing right here, which establishes the position of the airframe in relationship to the horizontal root tube. Once that root tube is horizontal, then the rest starts falling into place. And I would recommend not cutting these rods. Well, those rods come that length right there, but the other rods, not cutting any of those rods until you get that right. And then, and then cut the rods so that it maintains that horizontal level plane. So imaginary plane with this triangulation here that is required, to maintain the rear section stable. This in the ground is going to see once this is there. You're going to have a little flex on these rods, because these rods are not aluminum, they're not metal, they're composite. So you're going to have a little flex here, but